A widower removes one familiar item from a grocery delivery, while the rest still arrives for the shared life he no longer lives. The remembered preferences are accurate. Together they keep organizing his present around a household that exists only in the past. The failure is not a false record. It is a true record that still carries permission to direct a changed life. An old preference becomes unfair when its historical truth is treated as a present mandate without asking whether it still has authority. That distinction protects two truths at once. The earlier choice really happened, and the person living now is not bound to repeat it. Imagine this as a deliberately constructed case, not a claim about any current product. A household assistant learned repeated choices made by a couple. 1 year after his spouse dies, he reopens the planning routine. The next order follows their old habits with calm, mechanical consistency. He removes one suggestion, then leaves the rest. Correcting the full inheritance would require confronting the vanished household one item at a time. The order is useful in pieces and painful as a whole. Accuracy has preserved the archive, but automation has quietly promoted it into instruction. To see the ethical mechanism, separate three claims. Something was chosen before. It expresses who this person is now. It may guide present treatment. Each step changes the judgment. The first claim may remain historically true across time in this hypothetical archive. The other two require judgment because identity and permission can change. Preservation settles only the first. A record answers, what happened? A profile answers, how should we treat this person? Those questions share data but carry different moral weight. The second authorizes practical consequences. Confusing them lets evidence of yesterday acquire authority over tomorrow. The system does not need intention for its inherited rule to constrain choice. Constraint can emerge without intention. This is temporal autonomy, not freedom from having a history, but room for later commitments to outrank earlier ones in present decisions. Later agency needs operational priority. So respectful memory does not demand amnesia. It demands that preserved facts lose governing force when their claim on the present has weakened. The archive can remain intact. Why not simply delete everything old? Because continuity also serves people. Stable preferences can reduce repetitive work and preserve routines they still value. That benefit deserves real weight. A system that asks about each minor choice during repeated use would replace one form of control with another. Constant interruption disguised as respect. Respect can become its own burden. Nor does time alone reveal meaning. A preference from yesterday may already be obsolete, while one chosen years ago may still express a durable commitment. Durability is not measured by age. Expiration, therefore, cannot mean a blind countdown. It means a change in evidential weight when circumstances, commitments, or consequences suggest rechecking is justified. The trigger is changed relevance. The more consequential the treatment, the weaker the case for silent reuse. Recommending tea is different from reorganizing a household around an absent person. Impact changes the confirmation burden. The practical distinction is proportionality. Low-impact continuity may persist quietly, while identity-shaping or burdensome uses need stronger confirmation before continuing. Permission should scale with consequence. Now consider what makes a recheck appropriate. The clearest signal is direct correction. The person repeatedly chooses against the inherited pattern. Correction is evidence of revision. Another signal is a change environment. A smaller household, new accessibility need, different workplace, or altered responsibility can change what an old choice means. Context alters practical interpretation. A third signal is conflict among recent actions. When current behavior repeatedly contradicts the profile, confidence should fall instead of treating inconsistency as noise. Contradiction should lower confidence. None of these signals establishes a total transformation. They justify reducing confidence and inviting correction, not declaring a new fixed identity on equally thin evidence. Uncertainty calls for narrower adjustment. That matters because a correction system can repeat the original mistake. One changed action should not automatically overwrite the wider history and define the person again. A new label can also freeze. Temporal autonomy is therefore iterative. The person needs repeated opportunities to revise particular uses, while the system treats identity as contestable rather than settled. Revision should stay available. There is also a difference between retaining information and acting on it. Access can narrow while historical preservation remains intact. Use and storage can diverge. A past choice might remain available for personal review, yet stop influencing automatic preparation. Authority can decay even when storage does not. Preservation need not equal activation. Or the choice might guide low-stakes suggestions but require confirmation before producing a costly, intimate, or difficult to reverse consequence. Reversibility effects required scrutiny. This creates a graduated model of memory. Preserve the event, lower its default weight, narrow its permitted uses, and recheck before high-impact action. Different uses receive different permissions. The benefit is continuity without surrender. Useful history remains available, but it no longer speaks with one undiminished voice across future decisions. Selective continuity preserves agency. The central design question changes from, should this be remembered, to what is this memory still allowed to do? Governance begins with permitted use. That question assigns responsibility to design and governance, not to the machine as a moral agent. People decide which records influence which outcomes. Responsibility remains with human institutions. A morally serious process would identify the stakeholder first. Who bears the cost when an old preference remains active and who can contest it? The burden reveals the stakeholder. Next, identify the use. Remembering for personal reflection, service continuity, prediction, and automatic action are different permissions, not one indivisible choice. Purpose determines legitimate access. Then examine impact and reversibility. The harder an outcome is to undo, the less defensible it is to let uncertain history trigger it silently. Higher stakes require stronger confirmation. Finally, provide a low-burden path to correction. A person should not have to reconstruct an entire profile merely to change one consequential assumption. Correction should match the dispute. Together, stakeholder, use, impact, reversibility, and correction turn expiration from a timer into a rule about justified authority. Authority becomes conditional, not timeless. There is a strong counterpoint. Rechecking can itself reopen painful circumstances, impose repetitive labor, or make helpful technology feel persistently uncertain. Some preferences also support accessibility, safety, or essential continuity. Letting them decay merely because time passed could remove support the person still relies upon. This limits the thesis. Old information should not lose influence simply because it is old. Its authority should respond to evidence, consequence, and current dependence. Another limit concerns records needed for accountability. A person's freedom to change does not automatically erase evidence that another person may legitimately need. So expiration must attach to purpose. A preference may stop directing service while a bounded record of prior action remains for review or dispute. The refined principle is not delete the past. It is prevent one past truth from carrying broad future permission across unrelated settings. A validating case is the retain T preference. It remains current, low impact, easily reversed, and repeatedly confirmed through ordinary use. The contrasting case is the paired household order. Its meaning changed, its impact is larger, and repeated correction indicates that silent reuse is no longer justified. We can now answer the opening question. Accurate memory stops being fair description when evidence about a past choice is used beyond its present authority. Fairness requires asking not only whether the record is true, but whether this use at this moment still respects the person's current standing. For low-impact, stable preferences, continued use may be defensible. For consequential or conflicting preferences, authority should decline until renewed action supports it. That yields three practical responses: renewed confirmation, declining weight, and conditional expiration. Each changes authority without pretending the past did not occur. Renewed confirmation suits a consequential choice whose present meaning is uncertain. It asks before acting while leaving unrelated routines undisturbed. Declining weight suits uncertain preferences that may still help. They can inform a suggestion without silently determining the final treatment. Conditional expiration suits repeated conflict, changed circumstances, and meaningful impact. The old preference becomes inactive unless the person deliberately restores it. These responses preserve technical usefulness while recognizing a moral limit. Past behavior is evidence about a person, not lasting ownership of their identity. Respectful technological memory preserves what happened. limits what that history may justify now, and gives later choices a real path to outrank earlier ones. When judging any personalized system, ask what the record supports, what use it authorizes, and what evidence could reduce that authority. Then ask whether correction is proportionate. Changing one assumption should not require erasing a life history or rebuilding a complete digital identity. Time is one boundary, but not the only one. The next question is what happens when true information crosses into the wrong relationship. A humane system leaves room for a person to become inconsistent with their own past. The machine is learning. The question is, what are we teaching it?